While Operation Sindoor continues and there are ongoing tensions between India and Pakistan, one would have imagined that when it comes to civilians, there would be some basic humanitarian response. But India discovered that that was not the case when a hailstorm hit IndiGo aircraft passenger plane sought brief entry into the Lahore airspace. This is only the latest example of how Pakistan's regime thinks and acts. This is the same regime, I would like to remind everybody, that used civilian aircraft as shields against Indian retaliatory action during Operation Sindoor. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. On the program today, we look at the chilling account that passengers on board a Srinagar-bound IndiGo aircraft went through. There you see the damaged nose tip of the aircraft as the pilots made a deft landing in the airport despite a sudden storm and a hailstorm hitting it. Passengers on board the plane included members of parliament of the Trinamool Congress who described the experience to be near death. Now, here's what happened. We now have an official confirmation from the Director General of Civil Aviation, the DGCA, that among the interventions that the aircraft sought was for brief entry into the Lahore airspace to avoid the weather that the aircraft was trying to penetrate. Pakistan declined that request. Again, this has to be seen in the context of the fact that Pakistan used civilian airliners, did not close its airspace during retaliatory action by India in Operation Sindoor, and more than once the military briefings mentioned that Pakistan had used civilian airliners as human shields, and Indian armed forces had shown great restraint in not taking any action in those hours when there were civilian passengers, civilian planes up in the air. To talk about this latest Pakistan factor, but also the overall situation, this is delegations travel around the world to carry India's message. And in the Kashmir Valley, we are seeing anti-terror ops, but no news yet of the 4 terrorists who were responsible for the Pahalgam terror attack. Let me introduce our guests on the program today, 3 very distinguished military veterans. Former General Officer Commanding of the 15th Corps, General Satish Dua, is with us. Also the general who led the surgical strikes after the terror attack on an Uri army camp in 2016. We're also joined by military veteran General Sharma. General Sharma is now, of course, a distinguished fellow at the VIF Foundation. Thank you so much, sir. And also joining us is Air Marshal Sunil Nanotkar, who's, of course, a distinguished military veteran himself. Welcome, everybody, to the program. I want to start by playing out for you just a glimpse. Most of you would have already seen it. But, as somebody who has been into war zones and battle zones, the one thing I still find pretty scary is turbulence on flights, because you have no control. You feel so helpless in that contained space. I cannot even imagine what the passengers on board this Srinagar-bound IndiGo flight went through. Let's take a look. Now, there are many such videos and they're all bone chilling. And now we have an official statement. Marshal, I'll start with you from the DGCA. It's a long, detailed statement, and hats off to the pilots who were able to land this plane despite everything without any injury to the passengers on board. But the DGCA statement does confirm that Lahore was briefly asked by the pilots of the ATC, can you give us brief entry into your airspace to avoid this weather? And this was declined. And this was declined despite, as I keep reminding everybody, during Operation Sindoor, Pakistan didn't even close its airspace as a deliberate ploy so that Indian action was limited, because, India's ethos and Indian military ethos is being what it is. We would never have taken aim while passengers, civilians who had nothing to do with the conflict could be hurt. So your comments, Marshall, on what has happened with this Indigo plane and the fact that Lahore did not allow it entry.
Yeah, good evening, Barkha. And first of all, my compliments to you because right from the beginning, you have been covering all the stories related to Ops Sindoor and beyond. And
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad that you have brought in this issue, which is a very, very shocking issue, I would say, because having gone through hailstorm myself, I understand uh, what are the what the passengers sitting behind in such a big aircraft must have gone through. Uh, and you played the video. I think everybody was shocked. Everybody was, scared to death. I would put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And this is a normal procedure that the pilot has followed. I think it gets covered in the DGCA report that any time an aircraft in a predetermined route, civilian aircraft, or for that matter, even a military cargo aircraft, if it is on a planned IFR route, and if there is a emergency related to anything, this was of course related to weather, it is expected to deviate whenever it is expected to deviate from a predetermined route for whatever be the reason, and if the pilot has to declare emergency en route, he is to be given assistance without any condition, and that is what the rule says. And here we are during hostilities when the airspace was closed for Indian aircraft and traffic. Pakistan was using their predetermined routes within the country to shield or to to take shield behind the civilian aircraft, or within that their
Mm.
radar signature area, to sneak into our airspace, okay, and risking the life of so many civilians traveling into their country. And I think what they have done is absolutely wrong. But on the other side, what do you expect from them? Because they're killing civilians on our land. Their whole aim is to put a scare as to Indians, and also start starts some disturbances within India. So now, if you really look at this is the extension of what their mental state is, and I'm sure the pilot must be really desperate to switch over to Lahore ATC, and I'm sure that in that their process, their procedures, this thing must be covered
Yeah.
as to what to do en route. So officially, what the pilots have done is absolutely correct. Officially, what the Lahore ATC authorities have done is wrong. And I'm sure the DGCA will not stop at this and take it forward in terms of execution of rules, regulation, and the penalty thereof. Because this we should not, as a country, as a righteous approach to this entire incident, we should not stop just at DGCA filing a report. It has to be taken up at the highest possible authorities of international aviation, and
So in a way, what you're saying is, in a way, that what you're saying is that there are rules to international aviation. Those are the rules that have been broken when a flight in distress was denied entry into Lahore. I have a couple of more technical questions on the aircraft did ask for a change in route, a deviation towards the international border. I'll come to those later. Let's first get reactions from General Dua and General Sharma to what has happened. General Dua, I'll start with you. As Air Marshal says, why do you expect anything different? But India must raise this with international aviation bodies. The point is, again, we have to juxtapose this with what happened in Operation Sindoor, when Pakistan was willing to endanger the lives of its own civilians by not shutting its airspace and still allowing civilian passenger planes as a ploy to obstruct Indian air action.
Yes, Barkha, as Sunil just brought out, firstly, the international aviation norms for an aircraft in distress were violated by Pakistan, by Lahore ATC. Secondly, like you brought out, uh, while they were actually seeking refuge behind civilian flights during Op Sindhu, during the hostilities at that time.
Mhm.
And also let's keep in mind another fact that this is different from any other situation, in the sense that this is an humanitarian help caused by distress en route.
Yeah.
For instance, if you take your mind back to, I think 2019 was one of the lowest ebbs in our diplomatic relations when we diluted Article 370.
Yeah.
And at that time, things were at the lowest ebb. And yet, when COVID broke out the very next year, India sent millions of vaccines. We helped them. When it was 2005 earthquake, as the humanitarian aid, we provided aid along the LOC from Udi and other places uh, to POK. So what I'm trying to get at is, humanitarian help in need is one issue, but here it is question of the norms being violated. In fact, like Sunil said, we need to bring this to the notice of the authority, to the international community, and take it up formally. I mean, when we make dossiers, when we compile the list of wrongs being done by them, we should call this out as well.
So, General Sharma, it would be fair to say that Pakistan was willing to have the lives of these 227 odd passengers on board endangered. But as Air Marshal says, why expect differently? Because they were even willing to endanger the lives of their own people during Operation Sindoor when they were not closing the airspace. Could we unmute General Sharma, please?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Barkha, and hi to my co-panelists here. Now, what did we expect also? I mean, rightly there is a humanitarian concern. Rightly there is rules and regulation laid down for us. But I mean, to expect Pakistan to change its colors for anyone, even any humanitarian reason also, is, I think, I don't believe it. Yeah. It's a shame what they did, but this is what
Yeah.
they do. Even the worst of times, in the worst of times, we have allowed their patients to come here. It's hundreds and thousands of patients of Pakistan who come here for treatment into India. And we have now, of course, after the Pahalgam terror attack, we forced people to go back. But we've been treating them. The doctors have been inviting people. There have been serious
Yeah.
surgeries being carried out and all. That's because our concern. This is the culture of India. It's the way we are brought up, but it's
Yeah.
not the way that they are brought up. Look at how they concern about their own citizens who are not belonging to, say, Sunni caste, etc. So there are it's the way they are. And I feel bad about it. Thank God, like you said rightly, the pilots are able to get through that without
Yeah.
their nose gone away. It is such a eerie sight what you showed.
Yeah.
It's also eerie to see the nose is missing, and he
Yeah.
landed in Srinagar, which is not the easiest of airports to land in any case. So I one salutes the fantastic work done there.
General Sharma, uh, now that this has happened, what is the signaling to us? It is a signaling to us, right? And if you couple this with, there was a very brazen threat from the DGISI. I don't know if you saw that clip, कि वो हमारा पानी रोकेंगे तो हम उनकी सांस रोक देंगे, like delivered also in this sort of cheap dialogue way. And then they do this. And if you couple the sort of signs and signals emanating from Pakistan, how do you read what has happened with this IndiGo aircraft?
So it is not a question of Pahalgam, and it's not a question of Op Sindoor. This has been their attitude for seven decades, and this is their attitude because finally, if nothing happened in else, Pakistan Field Marshal has been able to get his following going. I mean, this has been a saving grace for him. He was really to the wall. He was being pinned there. But what he
Yeah.
brought about is a change out there. That's the attitude of Pakistan. That any time that they are stuck to the wall, it is best is to raise the India issue, create a situation which comes as close to war as possible. That brings up all the ultra nationalism inside Pakistan and the country. The worst of people, the journalists who speak every day against Pakistan's chief and the army and everybody from foreign countries have suddenly rallied behind him in the course of last 15, 20 days. That's the attitudinal issue. So to say that we would find a change of attitude, and there are already voices who started saying people to people contact must start off, and you must start off some trade and some relationships, and till the time we have diplomacy going, things will not improve. Things will never improve. This is the way it is. Anti-Indianism binds that nation into one country. The minute
Yeah.
they jettison anti-Indianism, the country will fracture into four nations. So I wanted to expect that there would be a change of heart. Absolutely incorrect. There won't be a change of heart.
Before we move on to the larger picture, taking a cue from General Sharma's comment, Emachal, I have a technical question for you. The DGCA statement, it gave a very detailed sequence of events, and of course, it confirmed that Lahore ATC refused permission, which we've all spoken about. But it also says that the plane before that, the pilots did ask the Indian Air Force for permission to deviate left, which is, as the statement explains, towards the international border, and that permission was not given. And then the plane decided to move into the weather, and when the weather, I think they were just taken aback by the ferocity. It was a sudden storm. Then they sought the help of Lahore, and Lahore refused to help. I think a lot of people have been looking at this statement of in the DGCA. If you could just explain, because it says, it doesn't elaborate. It says that the pilots asked the IAF, or the IAF controlled northern space, if they could deviate leftwards. Leftwards was the IB, and that permission was not given. If you could technically explain this for context.
Yeah, so Indian Air Force has got jurisdiction over certain airspace in the country, and they therefore look at it from the point of view of safety, safety in terms of the entirety. That means safety related to your path subsequent to where you want to proceed further.
Yeah.
So therefore, the Indian Air Force jurisdiction ends at international border. Now, had the pilot deviated to the left and crossed international border,
I see.
Pakistan would have taken action, military action, in terms of shooting down the aircraft. So that was a danger, probably based on the route that this aircraft was flying. So therefore, within their jurisdiction, they have denied permission to deviate to the left. So what it means is, if there is an alternative deviation available to you, please exercise that deviation, is what Indian Air Force would have said. Now, I don't have the entire radar picture with me, Barkha,
Yeah.
and also the transcript of the radio between the pilot and the controller on the radar. But this is what I expect would have happened, and this has happened earlier, where pilots have asked to deviate, and if the notice is very short in terms of even telling the other side to that our aircraft is deviating into your airspace, crossing the international border, the aircrafts have been denied this. But of course, this particular situation was totally different, and one would have to go through the transcripts to give a absolutely specific comment on this. But looking at the scenario, this is what I feel would have happened, because this article that DGCA is talking about to the ground radar is much before this incident has taken place. That means the pilot has seen on the weather radar that there is a problem in front of me, and this is the option that is available to me. And today, because there is no time in terms of tying up between the two countries
Yeah.
from the ground radar station, okay, which is usually available to you, this permission would have been denied by the radar controller from the Indian Air Force. But
So,
we'll have
so
to get
the,
into
yeah, this is very important to explain. The pilot is probably seeing weather en route before he hits the weather or she hits the weather.
yes.
Asks the Air Force, should I divert? Air Force says diverting to the IB is dangerous. This is not peacetime. You don't want to be vulnerable to Pakistan's potential targeting of the passenger plane. The pilots then continue, hit the hailstorm, are in the middle of that weather, ask Lahore for help, and Lahore then denies them that help when they're in the middle of really, really needing that help. And it is just shocking. As all of you have said, the humanitarian context should have prevailed, if nothing else, given that, as General Sharma, General Dua have also said, our ethos is the military that buried the bodies of Pakistani soldiers when they were not taken back in the Kargil war. That is our ethos. That is who we are, and this is who they have shown themselves to be. I want to zoom out. Yeah, Janudua, you have a comment there? Yeah, go ahead, Janudua.
A very quick comment.
Yeah.
They've already made one appeal, and very soon they are going to be appealing to world bodies and appealing to us as well for water on humanitarian grounds.
Exactly.
So I don't have to say anything more. By doing
Exactly.
this, they strengthen our hand by, that is a very
Absolutely.
cold, calculated decision taken in the CCS. It was not a
Yeah.
spur of moment thing, something that withstood 7 decades and 4 wars. But doing this, I don't have to say anything.
I think you've made an excellent point that where is the basis for them to make an argument about, humanitarian sort of demands or expectations when they have treated this aircraft in distress in this manner. I want to zoom out now to the larger picture. Where are we? Our delegations are going all over the world, cross-party delegations. Unfortunately, our politicians are squabbling at home. But Foreign Minister Jai Shankar, he's now started speaking. And one of the things that he was asked was why he did not speak earlier. And I just want to play out this little clip for you of what Mr. Jaishankar said.
Too many questions left, but if I may ask one, maybe a slightly more personal question. Why, after this flare-up of hostilities with Pakistan, why in this change? Why do you, if you like, keep silent for so long? Why is this one of the rare interviews you are giving? Why choose to communicate now?
No, I've not been silent for very long. I had a job to do. I had a job to do at home. We were in the middle of a very serious conflict. When that happens, normally you are very disciplined about your communications. So at that time, we had a communication system. So we had a set of spokespersons who were mandated to speak about it. I'm talking to you because I'm in the Netherlands, So when I go to Denmark and Germany and wherever else I go, it's my job as a foreign minister to communicate.
So I want to talk about the situation we find ourselves in, where President Trump, General Sharma, I'll start with you, keeps provoking every day. Yesterday, 8th time he repeated his claim. India has rebutted it officially. There is also another picture. I don't know if we have it, but we can pull it out and show it to you, where China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, the Taliban government, China, Pakistan, they have a meeting. And there is obviously that sort of coalition that is sought to be created. So in terms of geopolitics, how do you see the situation? General Sharma, General Dua, and Air Marshal, in that order. General Sharma, please start.
So, Barkha, in the days that passed after Pahalgam, till 6th of May, we had broad-based support across the world. In fact,
there's the picture. There's the picture. I wanted to show you this picture. Yeah.
So the entire lot of nations in the world came up to support us. And, this support was unequivocal. It was across the board. On 7th, when the shooting war started, there was a changed attitude among large number of nations of the world in which they would not comment, or they would be in a balanced situation. So between 7th to 10th, there was a change, except for Israel, which supported us, and there was Afghanistan, which supported us. Now, there are issues out here. I see this picture, which gives a rise to an impression like this, but there are also issues that Afghanistan in this time has asked us to consider making a dam on the Kabul River, which comes in, which is part of the Indus water system, and a place called Shetut or something, where they said you can make a dam. And, we have probably given a hint, yes, we can take it on. So there is a bonhomie coming up. And, after the airstrikes have done such grave damage across to Pakistan, all that thought that you and us and all have been discussing over last 4 decades, strategic depth, now there was no strategic depth for Pakistan. Where is the depth? Because wherever the depth was, the Air Force went and hit that place. So now the relationship with Afghanistan and having an inimical government in Afghanistan for Pakistan matters a lot. Second point is that the Chinese have been talking a lot of, for quite some time, of opening the CPAC other route. They have a route which comes from Tajikistan and goes across to Iran, but it's a very tedious route. So there's a long time talk that there should be a connection across to Afghanistan through Pakistan, and the relationship which was warming up. So even the worst of times, the trucks have come on, from the trade has opened up. Even from Wagah border recently, a lot of trucks came from Afghanistan and entered into Wagah border. This is this time when there is a troublesome time. So there is a Afghanistan-Indian trade. That Afghanistan-Indian relationship is what irks Pakistan tremendously. And since they are not able to get around Afghanistan, best way is to Chinese, which have got deep pockets, to go around and make a bonhomie with them. So the Afghani support to India, even in this Op Sindoor, actually stands out as a significant part of geopolitical relations out here. Now that the 7 teams which have gone out will have to convince the world governments. The fact is, every government thinks of issues and their own national interests. So while we
Yeah.
have to convince it, we have to convince it that their national interests also are co-located. It's not a question of J&K at all. It's a question of terror, and that's what we have to drive home. So in this game, I think the approach that the Afghani government had taken with India has been warm, and I think it needs to be recognized. And we must not overread into this picture. This is just an attempt to circumvent that warmth that was coming up between India and Afghanistan.
That's very interesting. But I want to come to General Dua on how he sees and how even Air Marshal or General Sharma see the elevation of Asim Munir. By many people, experts who have studied Pakistan, in that um, they see an inevitability that Pakistan might try something again because Asim Munir has to prove why he should be field marshal. कुछ तो उसको करना पड़ेगा is the general sense. What does this signal to you? The fact that this man was defeated in battle as the Pakistan Army chief, and he self-elevated himself to field marshal, Pakistan's second field marshal since Ayub Khan. How do you read it, General Dua?
So there are more than one aspects to it. One, we've already discussed that he was with his back to the wall before he came up with that statement 4 or 5 days before Pahalgam massacre about two-nation theory and how two religions and the Kashmir being the jugular vein, etc. So he was actually inciting that he wants to be army to be the custodian of the Islamist thought process. Now, the second thing is where he was the back to the wall, and as General Sharma brought out, this is something that Pakistan does it beautifully. They show up anti-Indian or India bashing, which shows public support. But this time round, when he's been elevated to the rank of field marshal, the only second one to do so, we also have to consider the fact that a field marshal never retires. So does it only mean field marshal? Will he elevate himself to actually taking over the country, or maybe he doesn't need to because
could he be president next? Basically,
could he be president next? I mean, so he sort of thinks of himself, and there are many. I'm not the only one saying this. Thinks of himself as a combination of Musharraf and Ziaul Haq. Now, if he sees himself like that, and beleaguered as the country's polity is, with Imran Khan still in jail, the most popular leader. So there is a very different dynamics that is likely to play out. Will he actually want to get into some activism, some active military steps against India? I think at the present moment, they may not have it in them to do it. I mean, there may be some issues on the LOC. There may be some terrorist violence below a certain threshold will happen. I'm not saying that terrorism is going to wane tomorrow. But any big adventurism, to my mind, I don't see that happening. Also because there is no need. Right now, he has the...
he has what he wants. He has what he wants.
Allow me just one sentence on what General Sharma said. I just want to endorse that. I think the biggest nightmare for them has been India-Afghan growing relationship between India and Afghanistan, especially during this time, because then Pakistan is now sandwiched between two hostile nations. Afghanistan may not be as hostile as they perceive India to be, but the fact is there are Pashtun issues. There are even Baloch rebels have the camps in Afghanistan. So there are a lot of issues there. And the last thing I want to say, Barkha, on the topic that we were discussing earlier, I agree with General Sharma that between 7th and 10th or 11th, we actually stood alone. India stood alone, while there was a lot of vocal support earlier. But I also see that world, to my mind, the world is losing its appetite. In fact, I should rephrase that: world is losing its tolerance for terrorism. But we also cannot expect any country to openly come out and support and say, okay, you go and strike them and we are with you. I suppose that is never going to be forthcoming. And India perhaps has come of age, been strong enough economically, militarily, and a good, bold leadership to say, we are going to do it on our own and we are going to do it on our terms. And I think that's what counts. And the last sentence is, this brings to fore our Make in India projects. It also tells us that no one is going to stand with us. We must really accelerate our Make in India, whatever it takes, to become more self-reliant.
Make in India, procurement, increase in defense budget, greater preparedness for conflict. I think these are very imperative sort of needs of the hour. Marshal, just your take on the developments in Pakistan, the Munir elevation and so on.
Yeah, Barkha, I think a fair bit of ground has been covered by both the generals in military terms and what its impact is on the geopolitics of this region. First of all, what I want to add is that the generals in Pakistan, the chief of army staff, they have been control freaks in any case. We have seen it historically, and when like this phrase was used, so I'm using the same phrase. When pushed against the wall, now there is nothing beyond that he could do. So that is why he has elevated himself to becoming a field marshal. Does it have a direct impact on his growth potential? I don't think he can go anywhere other than becoming a president, which to certain extent the Supreme Court has done a little bit of damage to this growth earlier. If you know the history, how the shift has taken place in terms of their constitutional amendments that have happened in the past. So from that point of view, yes, he was pushed against the wall, and this is the only step he could take to elevate himself in the eyes of whosoever is left to support him in Pakistan. That is number one. Secondly, very good points about Afghanistan have been expressed. Our investment in Afghanistan in terms of relations, people to people relation, is playing huge dividends now. And also how army has our Indian army in the valley has restrained themselves over a period of time and helped out people. Just isolating the wrong elements is what is helping us. So therefore, Baluchistan and Afghanistan supporting India during this crisis was not a surprise at all to me. Secondly, today our standing, both the generals have already said, today our standing in the international domain is not what it was in 71 for sure, and also not the same in the past in terms of economics and in terms of international relations. The third point is China. Whatever China has been doing to us has been small pinpricks here and there. Okay, though they have elevated the magnitude of it, but this was, I think, the testing grounds for China in terms of a long-term engagement that they want to have with Pakistan. And everywhere we have been able to kind of stop wherever there was a strategic development that would take place in long run. We have been able to hold our grounds. We have been able to convince the international community. We have been able to express ourselves in international forums and call the spade a spade. As far as China
we must, we must acknowledge that there is turmoil in Bangladesh. Pakistan is trying to court Bangladesh. China, as you said, is being transactional here and ghost fighting almost with India using Pakistan, not with boots on the ground, but by supplying weaponry. And we have, of course, a very interesting survey by Yashwant Deshmukh of Sea Voter that most Indians polled, General Sharma, or General Dua, if you want to add a quick comment on this, most Indians polled identified China to be the key adversary over Pakistan. And most Indians said Russia is more reliable than the United States of America. So this is very, very interesting findings. Quick comments on that, and then I want to use the last few minutes to talk about the Agniveers in Operation Sindoor. But General Sharma, General Dua, if you want to just add on there.
So I got 2-3 points to make, yeah, Barkha. One is that we've sent to 7 teams all over the world. I think we should send a team to South Asia, to our neighbors, and to convince them. Why are we detaching ourselves from South Asia? We have to take at least attempt to convince them. They are all not part of. Why shouldn't we not send a team across to China?
Yeah.
We have $100 billion trade. We should send a team across to China to discuss the similar issues across to them, to try and convince them. Of course, you can't convince them, but it is an approach being made. This is all diplomacy is all about. We must send it. And I would have said that somebody like of the competence of General Satish Dua should have gone along with one of these teams to tell the world, or a Marshal Sunil, who should have gone across to tell the world exactly what happened in warfare, because those are important issues across there. One point. Second point, look, Barkha, my anxiety also comes up because Pakistan is a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council till end of this year. They get a presidency now after a month and a half. When they get the presidency, as president, what issues they will like to bring to fore? Example is IWT.
That's right.
Maybe they're not able to pass through with the 15 members of the Security Council, and we'll be able to pursue it. But there could be a significant nuisance value that comes across to this one. Third point, and I end here, is even if it is a rumor and there's nothing to it, but to talk that they're going to get 40 F-35s from China, or J-35, whatever they call it, at half the cost within this year, will make the field marshal a little more anxious. The field marshal will think now he's got more power.
Correct.
And we have to think as to what support did the Chinese give Pakistanis. It has to be actually clinically quantified. We have to actually we can't say it is a missile PR-15 or an aircraft J-10 or an aircraft J-70. That's all tangible stuff which is available. But there are a whole lot of intangibles that the Chinese gave to Pakistanis. That was immense support. So to say there is collusivity, these 4 days have shown intense amount of collusivity outside the platform. And we have to be watchful for the next time.
I think that's correct, General Dua. If you want to add to that, a lot of people say China will never put boots on the ground, but the collusivity comes in many other forms. And, General Sharma just mentioned some of them. Do go ahead with your thoughts on this.
So, all I would like to say, to begin with your statement and question first, for us, is China the bigger adversary than Pakistan? I would always say yes, because before I answer your question about collusivity, because China is our adversary in the long run. Pakistan, at best, despite what we've gone through over the last 1 month, will remain irritant. With Pakistan, we have now, especially now, with Operation Sindoor, only paused, not finished, we have demonstrated punitive deterrence. That's the term military uses often, and all think tanks use. With China, we are looking at credible deterrence. And that's something for the long term. So we must not, take our eye off the needle, just because this has happened. For example, General Sharma and I have both been on the LC for long. So there is always a thought amongst others who say that Indian Army is too LC or LOC as it's called in the civil, LOC centric, So similarly, we need not get Pakistan centric again. We must keep our eye on the ball, on the needle, and our needle should remain focused on China in the long term. So that's an answer to your question. About collusivity, I'll make it very quick to say a brief comment. In a situation with Pakistan like the one that we had recently, to my mind, China is not going to hang on to the coattails of a rogue nation to try and sort out India. I mean, it's not going to happen that way, that when Pakistan and we have a conflict situation and China is going to take advantage of that. I don't think so, because China wants to act as a responsible superpower. I mean, that's their aspiration, to be a superpower in the world. And so I don't think they're going to do that. Will they support them? Certainly, they will. That higher than the mountains and deeper than the oceans
Yeah.
friendship will come to fore, and they will continue to support some of these details General Sharma mentioned. They will
Yeah.
continue to provide them equipment. All that will happen, but I don't see collusivity playing out in this way. Yes, if China gets into a situation with us, Pakistan will certainly jump in.
Okay, let's spend the last few minutes of this program hat tipping to the Agniveers, some of India's youngest soldiers. I want to just, if we can just change our banner and look at the Agniveers now. As you know, we've seen Ops Sindoor deploy up to 3,000 Agniveers in different roles, right? And many of them were 20s, 21, some were younger than 20. In the last few days, we have reported on how at least three, and there could be more, but at least three that we have documented Agniveers who died in the line of duty. We're seeing the images of one of them, 21-year-old Akashdeep from Punjab. And, you know, his is the video where you can see his father very stoically saluting at his son's coffin. And there you see that image. It is really a stirring, it's really a stirring image. I want to talk a little bit about this, about whether it A, ends the debate on the Agniveer scheme, or B, it tells us that maybe now that we have seen the young heroism of these men in combat, we can do more for them. We should do more for them, because the mother of this young soldier, Akashdeep, you know, she's saying in her own way, "Mere bete ko shaheed ka darja." Now, the military doesn't actually have the nomenclature of shaheed, but it's her way of saying that my son should be recognized in an official way, in a formal way. It's an emotional response. I just want to talk a little bit about Agniveer. General Sharma, I'll start with you.
The Agniveers finish their first rotation end of next year to 2026, and the next rotation starts. So the first lot of people will retire in 2026. Now, the Shaheed Ka Darja is called battle casualty in our lingo, and that's what stands across there.
Yeah.
I've been writing, and I've also spoken on this issue. My point of view is simple: that in death there is no difference between a soldier and an Agniveer.
Yeah.
The emoluments that a family gets in death should be equated exactly the same. You can't say Agniveer's family gets emoluments, while the soldier who has died along with the Agniveer his family gets pension for life. That is a dichotomy which I think people, when it happens in villages and towns, people will be irked with it, that you are not doing having balance on this issue. So that's one issue. Second is that there is whatever you might say, I think that training has stood across. Their cohesion in the unit has stood across. So all that cribbing that took place initially, saying that the training schedules are short and we will be able to train them, will be available for operation. I think at least in the army, it is behind us. We have been able to train them fully. Third issue is that if next issue, and this is last one, if the next Sindoor 2 happens in, say, end of next year, for example, I'm saying, then those 3,000, maybe 5,000 will fight at that time. And after having fought, we'll say, okay, we'll retain 25%. And the balance of you, well done, you fought well, you please go home. It would look very awkward for us to just part away with people who have fought a war with us and say you
Absolutely.
go across and you find ways. So the point here is, that guarantee for an employment post their tenure must be given. If I am not voicing opinion about that 4-year tenure or 50% retention or 75% retention, those issues are on the floor for last 2.5 years. What I'm just saying is that we need to consider the issue, saying that after 4 years, people who have fought with me shoulder to shoulder must get the same respect that he should get when he goes out and he says he got a job. And I will say private sector is not the answer. The point is the private sector, you work in private sector for so long, yeah, 40 years, you never know tomorrow morning, yeah, kal se mat aiye aap. So the
Correct.
private sector is a pink slip business, na. So you can't say the chap joins private sector, he opened his arms and you can join it. You join up after 3 years, they say, okay, fine, you've done fantastic job, you go out. So then where does he go and fend for himself subsequently? So
Yeah.
I think, we need to 4 years, fine, but after 4 years, there has to be a serious consideration. Now that we have fought, people may not call it a war, you call skirmish, you can conflict, you can limited war. Grammar of war is changed. I think we need to consider what we'll do to people who have fought a war and then go out.
No, I'm very grateful to you for saying this because, how can death be treated as differently? You die for your country in the line of duty. General Sharma making the point that there should be no difference in how you look at that. In employment, some guarantee of employment. Before I get Air Marshal General Dua to comment on this also, I just want to play out the comments made by the mother of Agniveer Akashdeep. He was only 21. There's heartbreaking images of her when he leaves the village to join the army. She goes to drop him to the bus, and itna pride hai dono mein, maa mein bhi, bete mein bhi, and now she has to receive her son's coffin, and this is what Akashdeep's mother had to say.
ਮੇਰੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਹੀਦੀ ਸਨਮਾਨ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਮੇਰੀ ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਉਹੀ ਮੰਗ ਆ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਚਿਰ ਉਹਦੀਆਂ ਅਸਥੀਆਂ ਜਲ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਾਂ। ਮੰਗ ਸਾਡੀ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਹੀਦੀ ਦਾ ਦਰਜਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ, ਮਾਨ ਸਨਮਾਨ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਛੋਟੇ ਬੇਟੇ ਨੂੰ ਨੌਕਰੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਵੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੇਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਬੇਟਾ ਰਹਿ ਗਿਆ, ਇੱਕ ਮੈਂ ਗਵਾ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹਾਂ, ਮੈਂ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਗਵਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ, ਉਹ ਮੇਰੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਰਵੇ। ਇੱਕ ਅਗਨੀਵੀਰ ਸਕੀਮ ਬੰਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਵੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬੱਚੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਡਰਦੇ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਤੋਂ ਕਿ ਦੇਖੋ ਵੀ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਮਿਲ ਗਿਆ ਵਿਚਾਰੇ ਨੂੰ 4 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੀ ਭਰਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਇਹ ਅਗਨੀ ਸਕੀਮ, ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਇਹ ਅਗਨੀ ਸਕੀਮ ਬੰਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਵੇ।
So she, like, as I said, the military air marshal doesn't actually have this word called martyr. What she's saying is, my son died for India. Treat him the same way as you would treat another soldier who died for India. He's a hero. And of course, he's a hero. He is a hero. So it's brought back the focus on Agniveers. I think it's ended some of the debates. But as General Sharma has said, a little more tweaking of the scheme, a little more compassion for these young men, for their families who are receiving at the moment coffins of their children coming home. Marshal?
Barkha, she spoke about izzat mere bete ko deni chahiye. Now, this is something Army, I think all the defense services live on, and I think we totally appreciate what she is saying. It is not that the first time a 21-year-old has died in conflict at the border. It has happened during Kargil operation. We have seen, and we all know, you yourself have covered Major Batra's story. He was 24. And you were 3 years older than him that time when you were covering that.
That's
story.
Right. That's right. Ye dil mange more, as he said to me.
So it's not question of 21 or 24 or 23. It's question of equity. A soldier is a soldier, irrespective of what entry he or she is. Yeah. So therefore, this differentiation is what I have been voicing against all throughout whenever we have spoken of Agniveer. And imagine, I mean, of course, with due respect to General Sharma's statement, which organization world over starts its intake with 75% rejection? Okay, at the end of 4th year, no matter how much of money you are given. That is number one. Secondly, this pension issue that General Sharma spoke about to the family is so very important to people who actually even today are willing to send their young ones to join services. This is going to be a biggest challenge as far as all the 3 services are concerned in future. So I think government is wise enough to understand this, and through this operation, whatever lessons are learned, I think this is one of the biggest area that I'm sure the experts in MOD and all the 3 services are putting their mind to today, because this is going to be one of the biggest issues, other than procurement, acquisition, technology adoption, and development in the country, and so on and so forth, as a lesson of Operation Sindoor, to my mind.
Yeah. General Dua, I'll give you the last word. I think the debate is no longer over training, over even, the metal has been proven more than demonstrably. But I think both Air Marshal Sunil and General Sharma have made the point that in the battlefield, a soldier is a soldier. And, after this operation, to say, ab 4 saal mein, we fought alongside in this battlefield, ab aap jaake naukri dhondo. Although there is a suggestion that the Central Armed Police Forces can absorb and so on, it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed, it's suggested. So what are your thoughts on the Agniveer issue now that we have seen their valor in Operation Sindoor?
So, Barkha, it has already been said before Operation Sindoor started that when the first cycle of Agniveers finishes, that is next year in 2026, the whole project or whole scheme will be, there will be a relook to the whole scheme. That has already been stated by the Defense Minister.
Yeah.
If anything, Operation Sindoor will only ensure that it happens that way, and soldiers' bravery will count for something. In whatever be the terms of services of different entries, but in a death during operations certainly is a great equalizer. Everyone is equally an honorable supreme sacrifice. So I'm sure we will tweak it to the benefit of the Agniveers. I agree with you that there have to be better guarantees, whether we tweak the scheme to have more, increase the 25% to 50, or we increase the number of years from 4 to 6, or whatever happens is something that will remain to be seen by next year. But yes, I agree that we have to make sure that while their training, while their metal has been proven, and the Jazba is not lacking, when everything else is equal, they should get much better benefits than are being given now. And last sentence I want to end with the fact that you and I, everyone has been saying during operations we must sort of put everything aside and be united, whether it's political party, it's left, right, center, all that. And I think here also we must do that. We must sort of put our differences aside. We have differing opinions. A lot of people voice different opinions on the scheme of Agniveer. It's a new thing that is coming up. It is going to be tweaked next year. With this operation, I am sure things will only turn out to be better than we would have expected.
Absolutely. I think it's fair to say that the Agniveers have demonstrated that they are next to none in either their passion, their jazba, their training, their valor. But as all three of you have said, hopefully, and I'm sure this operation will urge the right tweaks and the right relooks in the scheme, equity in the battlefield, security of some kind after 4 years. Those are the two most important things. We leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much, General Sharma, General Dua, Air Marshal Sunil, and to our audience, thank you and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.